A very good morning to you, Nigeria, and welcome to another edition of What's Your Take? My name is Dayo Akintobi, and I'll be taking you through all the major stories that made the headlines last week. First, I'll begin by wishing all of Nigeria a very happy Easter, and may the reason for the season be made manifest in the lives of each and every one of us. As always, I have with me my trusty sidekick, Yetunde Afolabi, who will be reading out the news and telling us all about the major stories of last week. Yetunde, how are you today?
Morning, Dayo. I'm very well, thank you. And
how was your Easter? Did you have lots of free John and fish? You know, Good Friday, we're not supposed to eat meat as Christians. So the meal of choice for Good Friday is something called free John. Do you know what that is and what it's made of?
No, I don't. That's the first time I'm hearing it.
Okay, interesting. All right, perhaps we should go for some culinary lessons after the show is over. Anyway, Nigeria, trust you're all having a lovely holiday weekend. This is a season of holiday breaks. Easter, there are 2 days of public holidays. Shortly after, there'll be another 2 days for Eid al-Fitr, which is the end of the Muslim fasting. Shortly after that, there'll be May Day, which is Labor Day for workers. That'll be a holiday. And then after that, we're going to have the census, which is another 3 days of no work, which is a good thing for workers because we can sleep. Those of us who are salaried 9 to 5 paycheck to paycheck people, we can get extra rest. But employers don't like it, and daily paid workers don't like it either. So anyway, let's make the best we can of all the holiday seasons. And now in the news yesterday or over the weekend, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo visited the Dia family to commiserate with them over the demise of the late General Dia. And something struck me about what the good Vice President said. He said General Dia proved there's life after public service. That struck me as rather poignant because guess what? The Vice President's tenure itself is winding down now, and I'm wondering, was he looking at what his life will be like after he leaves office? He's saying there's still a whole lot more to life after you leave public service. I'm sure the good people of Nigeria expect to still see Professor Osinbajo being active in national, global, regional, and diplomatic and all kinds of other affairs, in as much as he seems to have acquitted himself quite admirably as a vice president of the country. So, sir, we look forward to still seeing you out there serving the public even after you've left office as vice president. All right. So the focus of our show today is on the security situation across the country. There seems to have been a bit of a lull when the elections were happening, but all of a sudden now insecurity is rife all over again. So the focus of our show today is on the insecurity situation that's raging across the country. Lucky for us, our guest today is someone who can tell us a thing or two about security. Joining me to give his take on the big stories that made the headlines last week is Bamidele Ologundudu. Mr. Ologundudu is a retired Major General of the Nigerian Army. Welcome to What's Your Take, General. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. On a lighter note, let me just ask. The literal translation of your name from Yoruba to English is Black Warrior Ologundudu. Do you think you are destined to be a soldier? I mean, your name is so apt to the career you chose. Do you think that's destiny in the making, that you more or less became a warrior in defense of Nigeria as a career, especially as that's what your name signifies?
I think it's destiny because I wanted to be a doctor. Maybe you are aware of that. If I should tell you, I got supplementary form to enter Nigerian Defense Academy, so it wasn't planned. I just took supplementary form because I had my GCO levels then, and I just saw a supplementary advertisement. Please, if you have your GCO levels, come and write your exams. And I went to write the exams, and today I'm a retired Major General. So it was destiny, not planned. It was supposed to be medical doctor, planned.
Well, destiny has a way of throwing us curveballs on the best laid plans. So, Black Warrior, welcome to our show. Yesterday, over to you. Don't dare call him Black Warrior when you address him. He's General. Because the army.
Ladies have immunity with me.
Ladies have immunity. Oh, you won't make her frog jump on the
no. Ladies have immunity.
Okay. All right. Yesterday, General says insurance covers you. So go ahead.
Banditry and kidnapping. Business has resumed fully after a lull occasioned by the elections. There's been a rash of killings, abductions, and general mayhem unleashed across the country in recent days. In Benue State alone, suspected killer herdsmen gunned down 87 people in Benue State within 48 hours, 34 of them in a nocturnal attack on an IDP camp on Good Friday. In Zamfara State, 80 children were kidnapped by terrorists, bringing the number of Nigerians kidnapped by gunmen to 333 over a 6-week period. Gunmen and terrorists have also been responsible for attacks in Abuja, Lagos, Cross River, Niger, Taraba, Rivers, Delta, Edo, Nasarawa, Kaduna, Kano, Ondo, Adamawa, Ekiti, Ogun, Osun, and Plateau states. The burning question on Nigerian lips is, amid all this mayhem, where are our security forces? Where's the DSS? Where's the army? Where's the police? Perhaps your guest can help us better understand what is happening or not happening. Dio, over to you.
General, yesterday paints a really bleak picture of the security situation across the country. Things are so dire that Governor Otto of Benue State told President Buhari ahead of the weekend that beyond condolences, he should go and fish out the killers of Benue people. Surely that must be a first. A governor rejecting the president's condolences over the killing of the people in his state. How do you see this whole insecurity issue? I mean, IDP camp, internally displaced persons camp. These are people who are impoverished, who are dislocated, who are desperate, and you go there and you eliminate so many of them. What is fueling this insecurity problem? You, as an insider in the army and a current consultant to the Nigerian Army Resource Center, can you give us an insight into what really is responsible for this insecurity in the country?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of bad governance, and what I will call inability of Nigerian police to function. Whether you like it or not, internal security is the job for Nigerian police. Until you restructure, re-equip, and retrain the Nigerian police to do its job, I don't think we are going to have a solution to this security problem. I could see when you are listing those who should be responsible, you first mentioned Nigerian Army even before Nigeria police. It's totally wrong. Where are the mobile police force? You must have an organization ready to confront violent crimes. Until you have that, they do it 24/7. The military is not supposed to do that. We are not the ones to do that. We can help, we can come in, but you need an organization 24/7 pursuing the bad guys, the violent criminals. And until you have that, you can solve Nigerian problem. The Nigerian police must be restructured, re-equipped, retrained to do its job.
But General, the homegrown terrorism we have nowadays, the terrorists we have, they carry sophisticated weapons, they have deep funding, they have the resources that they can marshal for major onslaughts. It's the Nigerian police who still carry ancient AK-47s, who don't have money to fuel their vehicles, who are not really trained in the type. I mean, Nigerian police, the way we see it as Nigerian public, is that they're for enforcement of law and order, traffic control, investigating crimes like murder, local crimes that are within communities. But when you're looking at an organized effort like terrorism, an enemy you can't see, is the Nigerian police, isn't that why the army was called in? Is because it is beyond the capability of the Nigerian police to cope with?
Well, I think we are getting it wrong. Internal security is a secondary assignment for the military. It's not our primary assignment. We can be called in to help, but once the situation stabilizes, we are supposed to withdraw. The truth is, it is the job of the police. And by the way, our police no longer carry Dane guns and the type of guns you are talking about. They carry Kalashnikovs, just like my men. Mm-hmm. And the problem is their training, the ability to confront the robbers. You can't fail to train. You can't fail to equip. You can't fail to organize. And you want to face robbers that are now organized, criminals that are now organized. Mind you, it's more or less a business, a criminal business enterprises we have in Nigeria. And that is why they are so organized. And you have their names, and some of them take ransoms and they come, in the open and talk.
Do I hear you making a case for state police? Because you're talking about the fact that there needs to be a restructuring, that there needs to be re-equipping, retraining, all kinds of stuff. Are you alluding to the fact that maybe power should devolve from the center in terms of security?
Well, I always believe you cannot protect my little village from Ondo State all the way from Abuja. It's not possible. And it seems we have accepted more or less, at least in theory, that we must have state police. But beyond state police, you must also have an organization or a force that should be able to confront the very violent crimes. I'm talking of banditry, kidnapping, terrorism. You must have that force.
Within the police?
Within the police, or if you can't, if we know we can't go back to the mobile force, then we must go for an internal security force. President Babangida was trying to create National Guard, and it should have been what should have done that job, the National Guard. But we don't have it. We shouldn't be crying over split milk. So we should be talking about either the mobile police force stepping up to do their job, or we create an internal security force, one way or the other, to fully engage the violent criminals. We can't just allow them to run around without a force dedicated to check them.
So General basically puts it all at the foot of government and says that government needs to review the way security is structured in the country, and perhaps for now, we can't really sleep with two eyes closed, because at this point in time, the security architecture is the way it is, and we shouldn't really be seeing the army at polling units for elections, seeing the army at Lekki Toll Gate for NSAS. These are all things for the police, is what General is saying. But until we get to a point where we structure our security architecture, it will continue to be the way it is, and unfortunately that means insecurity will continue to rage. So please watch out for your families, your property, your life, and stay safe out there. All right, Yetunde, what do you have next?
The Defense Headquarters, DHQ, has condemned the clamor for an interim government by those unhappy with the outcome of the presidential election, stating that an ING is illegal and unconstitutional. The DHQ went on to warn that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced the president-elect, and as such, there can be no such thing as an interim government. Other political and social groups have also condemned the idea, with the APC, the PDP, and the NNPP all agreeing that the call for an interim government amounts to advocating for a coup, which is treasonable and unpatriotic. The House of Representatives has also dismissed the calls for an interim government, asking the DSS to arrest enemies of democracy. The Labour Party has, however, said that the military cannot interpret the Constitution, advising that the DHQ to avoid politics. A media aide to Peter Obi, the party's presidential candidate, Tayo Basi, was quoted to have said that the military should stick to its defense role instead of striving to interpret the Constitution for Nigerians. All yours, Tayo.
General, as a high-ranking military officer while in service, you were privy to the thinking of the Nigerian army of its role in society. Should it stick to securing the territorial integrity of the country and avoid political issues, or is it proper for the army to put its head inside issues that border on constitutionality, the way the DHQ is weighing in on this issue of an interim government?
Well, the Constitution is quite clear. We don't have any business with politics, even though we teach that politics is war by other means, and when you fight war, it's an extension of politics. But the truth is we have no business in politics. I'm proud of the leadership of the military now. They are capable, very intelligent officers, and they know what they are doing. I think they've said it. We are not interested. It is the job of the politicians. Let them do their job. I think that is just the best way to put it.
Do you see these calls for an interim government as tantamount to being a coup? And if that's the case, who can carry out a coup? Can the average ordinary Nigerian out on the street carry out a coup and impose an interim government? Who can make that happen?
I just call it little nonsense of Nigerian politicians. You know the problem is just personal interest. There is no interim government in the Constitution. There is nothing like that. And I would not like to go into who can carry out a coup or who cannot carry out a coup. But I can tell you the military is apolitical. The military is ready to face its job of defending the country. We are not interested in it. I mean, I'm a retired officer, and I can tell you the officers and soldiers wearing uniform now who are on active service are intelligent to know that they should not be lured by politicians to doing what they are not supposed to do. And I think it has been addressed by the defense headquarters. We are not interested. Thank you.
The Nigerian Army, a professional fighting force dedicated to defending the territorial integrity of the country and nothing more. General, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information and Culture, last week in the United States of America, essentially warned the Labour Party presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate that they should desist from the kind of rhetoric that they've been pushing out on the airwaves and on the pages of newspapers that they see as inciting. They are warning them that some of their claims amount to insurrection, amount to advocating an insurrection, and some of their comments border on the treasonable. This is all emanating from the fact or the incident of when Baba Ahmed Dati Baba Ahmed, the vice presidential candidate, went on air and essentially said the president-elect must not be inaugurated on May 29th because he did not fulfill the constitutional requirement, especially as it relates to the FCT. Now, legal minds have said that's up to the court to determine and not an individual. But he was very vehement in his claims that such an injustice must not be allowed to stand. Well, the government has warned him now that he's bordering on treason. What exactly is treason? And I remember treasonable felony in Awolowo's time. I think that's very different from what's happening here. What is a treasonable offense? And are Nigerian politicians verging on treason?
Well, Labour Party is a new kid on the block, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
They are sounding like just any other old political parties. You know, when you lose, you start shouting and you start saying the building should collapse and things like that. I think when you incite people to go against the government, to overthrow the government of the day, then you are becoming treasonous. They call for interim national government. It's not in the constitution. I don't know how we are going to get into that. I'll be interested in them. That, you know, I would have loved them to tell me how do you form the interim national government, and they back it up with the relevant portion of the constitution where you can do that. But they've not done that. I think the new kids on the block are just behaving like the old ones. You know, just the main thing is they are saying things that are just, you know, to their benefits and to their advantage, and they are not talking about Nigeria. Maybe because you don't teach history again. The last interim national government, you know where it led us. Maybe because you don't teach history again in the schools, even though someone said they've started again, you know. But I think if we learn from history, nobody should be talking about interim national government. It's not in the constitution. And we had a bad experience of it. So it's just the new kid of the block behaving like the old ones.
Well, do you think there's a double standard at play here? Because we see Alhaji Lai Mohammed, of course, who's of the ruling party, taking on the opposition and saying the things you say. But we see some people from the APC also come out and say some terrible things publicly. Even on TV, on social media, they've also said things that I would say is no different from what that he's been accused of. So how is it morally upright if you have different standards for different players? Well,
it's not good, but that was what I told you. I think some of us are talking about Labour Party because, as I said, they should be the new kids on the block. And you expect them not to behave like the old politicians. If anybody from the old group should say anything, I'll just say, okay, that's the normal thing. But new kids on the block with the obedience and following them, I would love we have new things coming up. You know, politics being something that we can all be proud of. You know, all those unnecessary things not being spoken again. You know, let us have politics. But if you are a new kid on the block and you are talking like a candidate in the 2011 and 2001, I would say, what's the difference? Mm-hmm. I think that's just the problem. Okay. Otherwise, well, all our politicians, that's what they do. So all upstarts need to go through a period of tutelage, and they need to more or less pay their dues and learn the ropes before they too can begin bearing their chest like the elder statesmen politicians. All right, here today, we're fast running out of time, so give us our last story for today, please.
Brain drain. A bill to prevent Nigerian-trained medical or dental practitioners from being granted full licenses until they have worked for a minimum of 5 years in the country has passed second reading at the House of Representatives. The Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, MDCAN, has however opposed the bill, demanding instead improved welfare for doctors. Over to you, Dio.
General, our lawmakers are in the habit of running off abroad for medical treatment for even minor ailments. Is it morally right for them to seek to stop our medical doctors from seeking better fortunes in other countries? Isn't the ideal solution one where work conditions and emoluments of our medical practitioners, indeed all professions in Nigeria, are improved to the point that no one has to seek a better life elsewhere?
Yeah, but let me ask you a question.
Yes. Is
anybody receiving good pay package? Are you receiving a good pay package in Nigeria?
Well, it could always be better. That's why I said all professions. It's not just medical. Yeah. It's not just medical and dental. All professions.
I think I would like to see them pass the law and let them test the constitutionality. I have a feeling it's going to fail. I'm not a lawyer. But the way I take the question of brain drain, as I've always told my friends, I think it's a phase in national development. It will come and go. Thank God that most of our rural areas depend on Agbo and the rest. but I think it's something we should be careful about. You know, we should make our medical professionals and other professionals, you know, we should make them comfortable as much as possible within the limits of our, you know, coffers, so that we can give them the best and they give us the best. I wouldn't like anybody to leave because I'm poorly paid. If you say you want to leave because we are too many or things like that, or you want more training, I would like that better than what is happening now. But I still believe it's a phase of national development. We are going to get through this. India and Pakistan were once like us. I think our physics teacher then in Ibobi College was a Pakistani.
Okay, so the general does not believe that the mass exodus of Nigerians to other climes is detrimental to national development. In fact, he thinks it's a relatively good thing. That, of course, hinges on them going to other climes, learning stuff, and coming back to play a role in developing our dearly beloved country. And that is the much we can take today on What's Your Take. I've been discussing with one of Nigeria's gallant soldiers who served this country meritoriously throughout his career. Thank you, General Bamidele Ologundudu, aka Black Warrior, for joining us on the program today.
It's been nice being here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all for watching Nigeria. My name is Dayo Akintobi. We'll see you again next time. Have a great day and a superb week ahead. All the best.
Ema na ta mi lo hwe ule pe wu. Ema na ta mi lo hwe de pe wa wo le bile ko yen re. You know go mi nya na dran de uga. Lo wo lo iku do re. We no mi do wo lo do wa do lo. Wa wo lo wa.
We want to beg the government so to talk to Femi Adelaja. When he's coming here, we bring the white boat, that the last one boat, will come with it with many soldiers. Nobody can near the boat. So we are only begging God to help us.
Look at Torubami. Torubami, they just wake up in a day and start pursuing them up and down. They even promise them that don't worry, we will settle you in another community. Torubami people, they are in Makoko community when they pursue them away. Ikate people, they are in Makoko community. Bariga, they are in Makoko community. Now the government and the developer again, they came in that they want to collect Makoko away from us.
If you are a landlord, you show your first data like this, they will start tormenting you that they have been putting fears in your body, they will kill you so that you will not be able to move front to come and push them away.
Makoko community is an urban slum which the Lagos state government considers a dent to its megacity ambition. The government wants to relocate and resettle the people of the community so it can redevelop the place. But the terms of relocation, resettlement and compensation are not clear.
For years, the Makoko, Shoguro and Okeagbon communities have made this place their home. But recent efforts to develop the waterfront threaten their very existence.
So where exactly does the government plan to relocate the locals? What happens to the fishing community? And how does a mega upscale property solve the city's housing deficit? TV360 Nigeria launched an investigation into the redevelopment plan of the Lagos state government and sought to find answers to these questions. Every morning, 55-year-old Godonu Ojo paddles his canoe to the Lagos Lagoon, just meters away from his ancestral home in Makoko, to fish. Like thousands of other fishermen in the Makoko waterfront community, Godonu survives on the daily income he gets from selling his daily catch. But the reclamation activities of the Lagos state government, in partnership with the private developer FBT Coral Estates Limited, threatens not only the livelihood of Ojo and other local fishermen here, but also their homes.
I'm a fisherman too. I used to go to fishing, but when that dredging comes, there's a time that they put it on the water. That time the water float with it. When somebody passes, that boat will be there's something that's used to bring sand will disturb the person. Even though the big wave is coming, the boat can capsize. So we try to manage until they put it on the ground of water. But that thing drive the whole fish to the sea. So that thing now can drive the whole fish to the sea and drive them moving around. They will not come nearby.
From the fishermen who toil all day on the lagoon to the women who smoke the fish And then finally to the fishmonger who trades our wares at the popular Makoko seafood market. The survival of each resident is tied to the Lagos Lagoon. But residents say the sand filling activities on the community waterfront has made fishing very difficult. According to the Lagos State Commissioner for Agriculture, Abisola Olusonya, the artisanal fisheries subsector of the state's fish supply chain presently contributes 80% of local fish production, which accounts for 40% of the state's total fish demand. She added that it also provides a major source of livelihood for fishermen in the state, and Makoko is one of the sources of the city's fish supply. But despite its economic viability, the Lagos State government would prefer that Makoko Iwaya waterfront community does not exist. Rather than cars and motorcycles, canoes bump into each other here in Makoko, an informal waterfront settlement in Lagos, Nigeria. It is often called the Venice of Africa, but its floating slum status where thousands live in wooden houses nestled on stilts in deep murky waters tell a different story. The multicultural nature of this riverine community reflects in the language, majorly Egun, Yoruba and French. Despite being a slum, life here is tranquil. Residents engage in routine business activities, offering various forms of services such as grocery shops, door-to-door salesmanship, canoe manufacturing workshops, and even schools that cater for both English and French-speaking people.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Trouble began for the community on July 20, 2012, when the Lagos State Demolition Task Force stormed Makoko and began pulling down houses barely 72 hours after an eviction notice by the Lagos State Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure Development. To speed up the eviction process, armed men set the wooden houses on fire. In a disturbance, one person lost his life and many others sustained injuries.
Dubai na time do bon oludo to gbo we sin oro lo mo gan time don gari o do ma time don lo ma chenchen o hole ton lo ma chenchen ton yo e mo do yan le yo a do gbe ami amo gbe do mi lo ma ba yi clear ani gari o no no ejo lo ba no lo yo yan be to o yan be to yan be to lo mi do ranu no je ejo yi ba no lo yeje nu sanjiro asaweji wa yi yeje nle sin sanji do yan be me le ran to o me ro wo lonu e gan le po mi mo nu gan le gbo ejo ro wo lonu do ni ijo lo me mo so ya nu gbele gbo wo lonu.
Again in 2020, the Lagos State government announced the reclamation of 54.58 hectares of Makoko for redevelopment by developer FBT Coral Estate Limited. But this plan has been widely rejected by residents of Makoko Iwaya waterfront community.
Tí a fẹ́ kí wọ́n kó wa kúrò nínú omi bí. Ọkọ̀ tó wà ńbẹ̀, a fẹ́ àláìkì ẹ̀ lálálálá ni mo wí. Torí bó ṣe wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe fún gbogbo wa àwọn èèyàn wa. Bó bá ń ṣe díẹ̀díẹ̀ nísìn, wọ́n á kó wọn kúrò. Wọ́n ní níbi kankan fi sùn sí. Gbogbo wa, nìkan wà nínú bùté, wà nínú ọkọ̀. Bó bá níbi kan á sùn sí kò dáa. Àlọ́mọ wẹ́wẹ́wẹ́ ọmọ pọ̀ mo fẹ́ afẹ́ kó wọn sí àlè kúrò ń bí but bí ìjọba fẹ́ tún àwọn sukuu ṣe fún àwọn ọmọ wa ó dà.
I'm a graduate of BSP Polytechnic. I graduated there, and it's from this fishing morning that I was sent to school. We have many students here. We have more than 200 students, more than 300 to 1,000 students that are schooling here. We are all trained, all sent to school with this fishing money. If there's something that place, how are we going to survive? How are these people going to survive? Fine, they are talking about development. I know it's not good for we to be staying like this, like wasted. There's no way, there's no place to put waste, dustbin, you understand? No good health center, no government school here. But we ourselves, we support their motion that said they want to develop, but it shouldn't be that way. If truly they will develop the community, they should come. We, the youth, the community, everybody will discuss in a democratic way. They can't just go there and impose dredging or impose any forced eviction on us.
There's no place that can be free to them other than fishing ports. I don't know where you want to take them to. I don't know where you want to develop for them. The only place they can live peacefully is at the fishing ports. So, no to the land grabbing. You know, we have experienced a lot of things, and now we have come to say no to the land grabbing, and let us not be chased from our homes.
The locals, made up of 3 fishing communities, Makoko, Okoagbon and Sogoro, have organized themselves on different occasions to protest the government's relocation and redevelopment plans. They say rather than build the much-needed infrastructure the community needs, the government is employing subtle means to steal their land and redevelop it for the benefit of the city's rich. In 2017, thousands of people in Otodogbame, an informal fishing community, were left homeless when officials of the Lagos State government and armed policemen conducted a forceful eviction. The raid led to the destruction of homes of about 5,000 people and the death of a man who, according to the Justice and Empowerment Initiative (JEI), was shot in the neck.
Look at Torugbame. Torugbame, they just wake up in a day and start pursuing them up and down. They even promise them that don't worry, we'll settle you in another community. Torugbame people, they are in Makoko community when they pursue them away. Ikate people, they are in Makoko community. Bariga, they are in Makoko community. Now everybody now in Makoko community, all the people you have chased away, you have promised to relocate them in another community, which you didn't even do. And you now chase them to, they run into Makoko community. Now the government and the developer again, they came in that they want to collect Makoko away from us.
These particular people are the people that break, spoil Otodogbame. They went to Otodogbame. They sound-feed the waterfront. They make it impossible for the people, the fishing people, to move outside. Since they can't move outside, they use the sound to block the waterfront and then wage war on them, calling the touts, the police, without informing the governor. So when they started this thing, they killed more than 5 people were killed during Otodogbame forced eviction that took place in 2017.
In an apparent move to avoid public backlash, the state government chose to adopt a new approach of dialogue with the representatives of the Makoko-Iwaya waterfront community. But things quickly turned sour when the locals felt sold out by their leaders, or bales, as they are called in the local language. Residents showed us an MOU where the bales signed an agreement with a private developer, FBT Coral Estates Limited, giving consent to the state government's proposed redevelopment and regeneration plans. The residents, however, argued that the MOU was signed without the general consensus of the community.
When they came, they proposed the plan. The youth, everyone in the community doesn't support their motion. So we said no. Suddenly they went to meet with the developer Femi of FBT Coral Limited. So when they met with Femi without our consent, they signed. We heard that they signed an MOU. They signed a MOU. When they signed the MOU, we heard about it. We are not happy because we didn't meet together to discuss this. So we were angry. We asked them that we are not in support with this MOU they signed. So they were like, we are the leaders. Anything we want is that. Anything we want is what you take.
what I've learned so far, speaking with members of this community, is that while they are open to development in terms of better schools, healthcare, and other infrastructure, they want all of this on their own terms. Now, their fear is that these developers could take advantage of them and steal their land. Now, they say that fishing is their primary source of income, and any form of relocation is not welcome.
It is important to understand that the MOU speaks of several redevelopment projects that the community will benefit from, such as jobs and other social amenities, but a part which speaks of a displacement and resettlement at a later date worries the residents. The Lagos State government, on one hand, promises to redevelop the area and turn it into an upscale estate in line with the themes agenda of the state. But in the same breath, the MOU speaks of a relocation and resettlement of the locals. This contradiction raises three major questions. Since the MOU did not mention the construction of low-cost housing for the residents, how will the construction of an upscale mega estate be of benefit to the fishing community? Where does the government plan to move the fishing community to? And how would they be compensated? These are the questions TV360 Nigeria put forward in these letters to the Office of the Public-Private Partnership, whose special advisor is Okpe George. The Lagos State Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure Development, headed by Ahmed Kabiru, and the Lagos State Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, which was headed by Salako Idris at the time of this report. Sadly, all attempts to get a response from these three agencies, who play vital roles in the redevelopment plan of the Makoko Iwaya waterfront community, have been futile. After an initial cancellation of a scheduled interview by the Special Advisor to the Office of Public-Private Partnership, Okpe George, we finally got a response months into this investigation. In a signed letter, the Special Advisor gave vague assurances of the state government's resolve to work in partnership with the locals. His responses did not give clear and direct answers to the questions and demands of the residents of Makoko Iwaya waterfront community. We have also tried to get answers from Felix Moka, who is named as a legal representative of the Makoko Iwaya fishing community in a memorandum of understanding. All calls to his numbers were unanswered, and he did not respond to his text messages.
Despite several protests, reclamation activities on the Makoko waterfront continues. As you can see behind me, that's a dredging machine set up by FBT Coral Estate Limited to reclaim more than 50 hectares of land off the Makoko waterfront. Now, fishermen say the dredging activities, as they call it, has made fishing quite difficult.
While the questions of the residents of Makoko Iwaya waterfront community remains unanswered, the sorry state of housing deficit in Lagos is better explained in these numbers. An estimated population size of 23 million residents, a housing stock of 1.49 million units, and a household size of 4.9 people puts the housing deficit of the state at 3.2 million housing units. The Lagos State government is not unaware of this problem and says it has delivered 14 housing schemes in the past 2 years, contributing 7,000 affordable housing units. While this number of homes can barely solve the city's housing problems, these houses do not come cheap, as houses range between 4 million naira and 20 million naira. With Lagos having a poverty rate estimated at 8.5% and the vast majority living below extreme poverty levels, the construction of mega estates and even the low-cost housing estate is unaffordable for an average Makoko resident. This will further worsen the housing crisis and push more of the state's population into slums and, worse still, homelessness. To better understand the state's housing situation, I paid a visit to Lukman Oshodi, an infrastructure and development expert who led a research team in 2016 on the Lagos State government's past and present policies and projects that border on urban regeneration, housing, and infrastructure development in the state, especially mega projects. Oshodi tells me some of his research outcomes.
If you look at the city of Lagos and the development orientation, all these resettlement, relocation, they are yet to be fully adopted as a culture of development processes in Lagos. If you look at development trajectory of Lagos, there is no way you can have a new development without some level of demolition and all that. But the process of going about that demolition so that it doesn't really expose the dignity of the people who reside in those places into danger, into ridicule. Those are the key points that need to come into play.
Sadly, the problem runs deeper than mere numbers suggest. When evacuations are carried out, families are torn apart and may never be properly compensated or resettled decades after. This was the case of some residents of Old Maroko who were lucky to be resettled in this substandard housing in Ikota area of the state. Now 70 years old, Roslyn Odimoko was a young mother and wife in 1990 when she and her husband lost their homes when the then military governor of the state, Raji Razaki, ordered the forceful eviction of more than 3,000 residents of Maroko.
When they give us notice 7 days that they're going to let everybody pack away, we think say that is a joke. Before the 7 days, they bring bulldozers, soldiers, surround all the whole Morocco. That day of 7 days, they start demolishing all the whole places. That's during Rasaki regime. That 1990. Like I myself, I sleep for main road for good 2 weeks because nowhere to go. I have children. The zone house here, and when we get some people get the place, they enter. When that time there is no window, it's uncompleted building. Yeah, there no window, no door, no nothing. Like this breeze now, many people die because nowhere to hide themselves. Before we use zinc and everything, putting for the doors and this thing. After then call us again for roofers. Even they give us paper for the roofers for doors and the roofers, and we take it and come and fix it by ourselves.
While the eviction has been described as one of the largest forced evictions in Nigerian history, the people still face the threat of losing everything as land grabbers and encroachers and Old Maroko is just one of several communities that have ceased to exist.
Believe it or not, this part of Lekki in Etiosa local government area used to be a thriving town of Maroko, which more than 300,000 residents called home. Maroko was adjacent to Ikoyi and east of Victoria Island. While all traces of old Maroko has been destroyed to make way for this affluent neighborhood, the original residents make do with substandard housing given by the Lagos State government as compensation.
The human and psychological effects of their eventual eviction and the apprehension of what the future holds reflect in the dynamics of human dignity, protection of aquatic life, and preservation of indigenous communities in Lagos State. Folashade Ogurinde, TV360 News.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
My name is Collins Abinoro Aporode, and I'm an artist. I create sculptures, lots of mixed media arts as well, then lots of drawing, but mainly I'm well known with my stainless cutlery sculptures. Well, professionally, I graduated 2012, and I immediately graduated. I started out into full-time studio practice because I've actually made up my mind from an early age what I wanted, and it wasn't difficult finding my feet or making the decision on where to begin, on how to start, or what I wanted. Immediately I left school. So as soon as I left school in 2012, I started out professionally. My stainless spoon sculptures, I actually started, my first piece was made in 2011 as a student in one of my exploratory courses, metal constructions. I stumbled into the material and I never stopped creating since that time. As a child, I'm fascinated by life, the beauty of life, the beauty of creations, birds. I grew up in a rural environment, so I was largely inspired by the rural life. You know, we used to do a lot of bird hunting as a child. And I guess that started out my passion and interest in creating a lot of bird sculptures earlier on. I still do a lot of them till now anyway. To have evolved into more engaging pieces in terms of conceptualization and material usage and all that. So I guess my interest in the things that happens around me, my environments, you know, natural phenomena, you know, politics and all of that, part of the things that made up my interest in art. And of course, family life were part of the things that inspires everything I do. As a person, one of the things that actually struck me growing up, where I used to always ask myself the question, why do we think the way we do? Why do humans behave the way they behave? Why do the certain kind of people act in a certain way? Why are people having interest in certain things? You know, so these puzzling questions are things that have resonated in my mind growing up as a child. And they are things I still constantly explore with my work, you know, trying to understand human nature, trying to understand the spirituality behind our behavior, behind our temperaments, behind who we are, what we aspire, what we think, why we act in a certain way. So there are a whole lot of things. That's why I could actually sum it up that say life is everything that inspires what I create and what I do. Growing up, the only art I think I saw earlier on were pieces of beaded clothing that were made by my mother. I mean, I think I grew up seeing about 2 of such clothes that she made as a young lady at that time. But apart from that, there were no other artistic background. But actually, when I had a conscious and realization that my mom did crafts like that, you know, as a young lady, I think my energy was born out of her. I guess somewhere I had contacted the gifts from her. But apart from that, there were actually no artistic backgrounds growing up as a young person. basic challenges when I started art were, you know, I'm a sculptor. As a sculptor, it's a bit more complex or a little bit more difficult for the sculptors to begin their career because they need a little bit more complex space, you know, secluded space to be able to create whatever they want to create, especially as metal sculptors. You know, the painters could actually make do with a small room, or a metal sculptor will require a secluded environment because of the hazardous nature of the materials, machines that they work with. So one of the basic challenges that I had was getting a studio space was a huge challenge for me, you know, but nature has a way of always making things happen. You know, I found help somehow by meeting some older friends who were able to guide me, to introduce me to one or two persons that assisted me out to use a studio when I moved into Lagos, especially, you know. Then the second challenge I faced were fun. I had lots of materials that I want to explore, a lot of ideas that I want to work on, but having funding was a major challenge. But when you have dreams, you always will find a way around to make use of every opportunity or access to materials that you can find at that point in time. So I scaled through those early stages, you know, and I've kept evolving. Sourcing for my materials ain't so difficult. All I needed to do was of course, the first challenge was because I buy a lot of my materials, the cutleries, in bulk, in large quantities. You know, it's difficult a lot of time to find where to get them in the large numbers that I will get. Because some of my pieces will take 2,000 pieces of spoons, and some are over 3,000 to 4,000 pieces of spoons. So it was initially very difficult. Being able to find a place where I could get the large numbers of the material that I wanted. But over time, I was able to stumble upon a couple of places where I can source for most of the material that I wanted. Then, of course, because my materials are welded, they are metal, stainless metals, they are all welded together. You know, so one of the most important things, apart from having a material, is lights, power. You know, and power is still a challenge. You know, because it's always not there where you need it. You know, and art not being an engineering or a mechanical process, you know, it's more of an artistic drive or intuition. Sometimes it comes where you least expect, it. You know, so it was difficult because there were no lights. Sometimes we had to wait till when you have power to be able to work. You know, so that will slow down my work process a lot of time. You know, but somehow I've been able to make do with the generator, you know, an alternative, you know, to the national grid. But still, power is, you know, not just was, but it's still a challenge, you know, to the work pace and how quickly you could achieve some things. The only thing I can always say to the system is get the system working, you know, and I usually will believe that why some persons will believe that young people or Nigerian youth are lazy, but I've looked around me. I'm a young person, I look around me a lot of time and I don't find anybody that is lazy. I only find people that are limited, whose hands are tied. They want to do things, they want to get things done, but their hands are kind of tied. Same people whom are supposed to be lazy leave this environment and they become something else. They are transformed, you know. So it's not the young people that have the problem. It's a system that has been designed you know, to reduce or to weaken the strength of the young people. You know, so once the system is working, once the facilities are working, every other thing will fall into place. My smallest pieces will take 3 weeks. Some pieces will take 3 weeks. There are some that takes up to 2 months, 3 months. I've had a piece that ran through a period of almost about 7 months, depending on the complexity of the piece. You know, not just the practical work, the studio work, but there are a lot of thought processes that goes most time before the work is done. Because it's one thing to create a beautiful bird, but it's another thing to be able to evoke into that piece what people can connect with, you know, because art is not just the visual representation of an image, but it's about passing out messages. It's about encoding messages into these pieces that people can connect with. After the creation of my first stone sculpture, which was incidental, you know, as a result of exploratory classes that we had, where we were pushed to try to think beyond the conventional mediums that we were familiar with at that time as students, you know, I kind of fell in love. I fell in love with the pure nature of the material, you know, and it's kind of having its effect in my work as well, where I fall in love naturally with materials that are stainless feel, you know, because they have this pureness of spirit, that this pureness of their soul, you know, so I naturally will connect, and it's difficult for me to think out of it. You know, of course, when you're in love with anything, you want to go miles, 1,000 miles with them. I'm a highly visual person, highly pictorial person. And every day of my life is lived flipping through pictures, either hard copies or mentally, you know. And because it's become a thing that is embedded into my soul, it's difficult not to live any moment without having a flash of informations. I call them flash of informations because they are materials that constantly will come into my memories. Some can be visible, almost visible sometimes to me, you know. And because it's something I constantly think about, when I look at my visual concepts or ideas, you know, I can almost literally see my materials on the sketches, on these ideas. I can almost literally see it, you know. And when I work, it's almost, I literally will see how the material should be manipulated. I literally will see it. I could feel it on my hands. I hold my materials and it almost tells me what to do. You know, how to twist, how to manipulate. You know, how to create a bend or create a movement or a form. You know, so it's something that you know, life is an embodiment of energy. You know, whatsoever that will make a part of us, that will receive into us. You know, we exchange informations. You know, so I've been able to create that sort of network, that connection between myself and the material, that I can literally create anything with it. The most difficult part of my work is the thought process. The creative process right now, it's really not difficult. You know, what I see in my process when I begin to transform from the mental picture into a visual picture are basic challenges. You know, basic challenges which can be sorted out with a little bit of your technical know-how, you know. So once the mental process is defeated, the real thing, transforming from that mental process into the visual process, ends really a problem for me at this moment. Earlier on, there used to be problems because there are times when I create to certain points and I realize I'm informed into what I had wanted, and I have to break down and do this and do that. Or because I've been able to conquer a certain level, you know, of my creative process, you know, transforming into visual form ends really much of a process of a problem. My dealings at the moment is being able to create a stronger mental picture of my work, being able to create arts that will speak more to people, that will connect more to people, that would say the right things, that people will see and kind of connect stronger with them. Limelight. I'm really not at my peak. I've not hit the level that I want, you know, because I'm constantly pushing myself. You know, the world is an open place now, so you cannot be limited to what you see around you. You know, I'm just this one person that is never satisfied with myself. I could achieve a feat today, and I open my eyes, I close my eyes and open them again, and it's like I've not done much, I've not done anything. You know, and there's still so much I want to achieve. So I think I've done a lot, I've achieved so much. I've been able to set new standard for people, for artists, for creative people, and challenge a lot of people. But I've still not hit the level that I want to hit. I still crave to be, if you're counting artists in the world, I still want to be counted among the top 10. You know, I still want to be top in Africa. You know, still want to be able to push the stories of Africa into the global scene. So there's still so much, you know, that I want to do. A lot of people have constantly used spoons, but not at the dimension that I'm working with them. It's, I think it's basically breaking barriers and creating new design patterns with the material. You know, most of the early pieces that I came across were basic designs with the material, which a lot of them are really not detailed forms and characters, you know. But I've been able to take it beyond just that basic level of making beautiful patterns with the spoons into more like having a signature right to the medium, where I can almost achieve anything. Human forms, animal forms, abstract forms, almost anything with the medium. So it's basically shifting it from where I think I saw some people work with the medium into where I want to see people would take it further, maybe from where I've been able to get to. Currently, there's massive interest in my work. You know, one of the challenges that I faced growing up as a young person when I made the choice to want to do art were the questions from my parents about if I would be able to make a living with art. You know, but I have a family. I run a studio. You know, I do stuffs. So that tells that I can make not just more than a living with art, you know. And because my works are unique, there is a lot of interest in my work. There are a lot of people who want pieces. So the response I'm getting from my work right now is mind-blowing. And of course, there's still so much more. Basically, at the beginning of my career, I actually could not cope dealing with galleries at the start of my career. So So I relied massively on social media to expose my work. You know, and from there I've been able to connect with a large audience, you know, from people not just from Nigeria but outside the shores of Nigeria. So social media was a major tool to getting exposure, you know, and of course meeting people one-on-one, and there are people who will see my stuff on different spaces and they will connect and place a call through. There are people who will recommend, you know, my work, having had an experience before, you know. So, but one of the major tools that brought me into good light was social media. When I moved to Lagos, of course I created a piece, and I wanted to connect to a couple of galleries to try to sell. And my first outing, I never liked the response that I got. You know, I am passionate about what I do, you know, and one of the first things I look out for is not just to buy the art, but to be able to create a dream with it. I want to do stuff with people that can push me beyond my limits. People who are able to dream, that share bigger vision from what I do and from me than I think, never less than my own dream, you know. So I actually didn't feel comfortable with the experience, the first outing, and there that day I made the decision never to take my work out again, to try to sell in a gallery, you know. And I think it was the beginning of good things for me. I think it was the right choice for me, though it was, I went through tough time because I was new in town, and I never had any clients base at that point in time. So it was difficult, you know, selling. Clients weren't coming because I wasn't known at all. And of course I had bills to pay. But somehow, now I look back and I'm happy that I made that choice, that decision that day, you know. And that has also helped a lot to create a sort of, my works are rare to come across. You hardly go to certain places and find my work in lots of galleries. And I've come to realize that people like it when they are rare, when you always can find them everywhere. I actually don't like to use the word training, but I prefer to use the word mentor people. You know, like I said earlier, one of the challenges I had was being able to access studio as a sculptor. You know, so what I basically do at the moment is to have my space open to a limited number of people yearly. You know, because I presently do not have the massive space to accommodate a higher number of people. So yearly I run programs for university students who are doing internship, you know, for a short period of time, you know, and the highest I can do at the moment yearly is 3 to 4 students every year. And of course, I do a lot of mentorship program for